Congressman Mark Pocan is with us now. It's midday. It's officially middays with Mark here on the Thom Hartmann Program. And 202-808-9925 is the telephone number. And Congressman Pocan, just to quickly recap, you just came out of your caucus leadership meeting. There was a vote. I'm not familiar with the congressman from New York. If you could, tell us just a couple sentences about him, and then we'll pick up our calls.
Yeah, so we start our elections with the caucus chair because they'll convene the rest of the day. The candidates were Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn, New York, who's a Congressional Progressive Caucus member, and Barbara Lee, who is not just a member but also part of our leadership team. So we have a good person in either candidate. Many of us were advocating for Barbara Lee. Should be the first woman who is the chair of the caucus and the first African-American woman in our leadership team. But she lost by 8 votes to Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem is a great orator. He was one of the people that led our communication efforts that helped us be victorious this fall. So it was kind of a win-win, although, a little bit bittersweet because Barbara Lee is the second time she's ran for it and someone who I have the utmost respect for. Yeah,
well, 2 years from now, maybe third time's the chance, or the charm, rather. But Hakeem Jeffries, I've heard his name a number of times. I don't know anything about him. I'll just have to put him on my radar screen.
Yeah, he helped pass a bipartisan compromise on criminal justice reform, but he is a very talented speaker. When I was in charge my freshman year of the Progressive Caucus Special Order Hour, he would often come and join me, and without notes would deliver the most amazing speeches. So I think you'll see a lot more of him in the media now, and that'll be a good thing because he's a very talented representative of the speaking on behalf of Progressive Caucus.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's pick up our phone calls here. Russ, listening on WCPT in Chicago, and actually Russ is in Hickory Hills, Illinois. Russ, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you, Tom, Mr. Pocan. Hey, Mr. Pocan, you look good when you're on Chris Hayes last week. But what I wanted to ask, I've heard it on our radio stations and MSNBC. Donald Trump's in concrete over this debt seal. Concrete over shutting the government down if he doesn't get money for the wall. What are you hearing? Because you ain't going to get anything out of Mitch because he's already running scared that he's going to get primaried. What are you hearing about the shutdown? I hear it's very possible.
Yeah, so we just had a brief conversation in the last hour about this. So we are steadfast about not giving in on funding for a wall that even the Republicans put language in the last appropriations bill that nothing could go towards any designs after March of 2017 because they know fundamentally in their guts that this is a bad idea. I do know this about Donald Trump. He is a reality show star first, a scheming businessman second, and third, he's the president of the United States. And it is good for ratings to shut down the government. So I think Donald Trump is still going to definitely toy with the idea. The question is, will the Republicans in Congress who have been a little more adult-like in this area realize the great expense that happens to the country when that happens?
Is there widespread knowledge among the members of your caucus that the whole wall thing was something that was presented to Donald Trump by Cambridge Analytica? They had focus grouped it and tested it. They came up with 2 slogans along with graphic logos that they presented to Trump early on in his candidacy. One was "Lock her up," about Hillary Clinton, with the logo was a pair of handcuffs, and the other was "Build the wall," and it was a picture of a wall. And he dismissed both of them. He thought that they were crass. He didn't think that they would fly. They convinced him to try them out at a rally. And he tried them out at a rally, and the people just went nuts. And that's how we got Build a Wall. He just thought it was a stupid idea to begin with. Is that widely known?
Stupid idea, right? That's the problem. I do think, remember in December, Chuck Schumer offered money for the wall, which I and others were not happy about.
Right.
But Donald Trump didn't take yes for an answer. So I actually think a big part of this is Donald Trump loves to have the rallies and talk about it. He doesn't actually fundamentally believe it because it is such an incredibly stupid idea. But he loves to, if he can shut down government over it, it looks like that increases ratings.
Right.
So I always say he's a reality show star first, scheming businessman second, he's the president of the United States third. And with Donald Trump, you never know what he'll do. I do think, though, the Republicans in Congress realize fundamentally it's a bad idea to have a shutdown. So I'm hoping we won't have it, but we're still in those final negotiations.
Okay. Amen. Ginger in Seattle, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan. Ginger?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I watched a rerun last night of a meeting you had yesterday, some of you had, with the Department of Defense. who is asking for yet another $800 billion because we're in such dangerous times. They just can't make it on the first 800 that they were given earlier this year. Have you talked about that, and what do you think about their request? Also, there was some just a little undercurrent of maybe Medicaid and Social Security should be discussed because they really need this money.
Yeah, Ginger, I'm not familiar what meeting you're referring to. So, I think the Department of Defense is always open to having more money, but we're not in that period right now to do that. We do have 7 appropriation bills to finish at the end of, I believe, next week. Homeland Security and the wall being the biggest one, but I believe defense we already did finish through September 30th. So it may be just that, I don't know the meeting you're referring to, but I don't believe there will be any additional allocation for defense, especially in that kind of a level.
Okay. We just have 35 seconds here until a break. Is there a debate within the Democratic caucus about how defense should be funded?
Well, I don't know if there's a debate. I mean, there is strong belief, including by people who are on the Armed Services Committee and on the Appropriations Committee on Defense, that, we just spend too much, that we don't have to be the policeman to the world, and that money could be spent on better things. And there are people who have a lot of defense contractors in the district and are often going to fight for their individual parochial interests. So we will have a definite debate on that. But in general, I think, this is an area where hopefully we can be a little wiser as a general caucus on defense spending, because we spend so much, and then, the president's wasting some right now at the border. Yeah.
I remember William Proxmire and his Golden Fleece Awards. Maybe you should reprise those.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that brought out of the freezer. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us taking your calls for the hour. It's Middays with Mark on the Thom Hartmann Program. And we got a lot of calls stacked up for you, Congressman. We'll get right to it when we get right back from this. You can find Congressman Pocan's website at pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan.